vision and can provide the resource, support, and a bit of capital to bring that to fruition in the marketplace.
3.5 sentences. Thank you, Joe. Um, Nadia, what is an independent label? Very quickly.
I think it's hard to add something. You both said it's not a major label, obviously, and I think it's hard to like define indie label because I think every label does think it's more about the artistic perspective and not so much about the commercial and the capitalistic one. Of course, we're not non-profit, so it has to work out. But yeah, we try to work with artists like on a very personal level, and we want to be friends with them. We want to like achieve things together, and yes, that's the most important thing for us at Ink Music.
Great, thank you, Nadia. Well, I myself have been in the independent music business since I can remember, and I can confirm what you say. I think it's a feeling. It's a state of life, state of business. It's a feeling of how to do business in the music. Okay, I got the hint to be even louder. I try my best, or maybe the sound technician can pump it up a bit. Now that we have made clear what is an independent label, by the way, to the audience, please, if you have any questions, if you don't understand something, if something is unclear, don't hesitate to make yourself seen, and I make sure you get heard. I would like to continue, like we have an environment in music biz today where the scene is dominated by tech giants, by companies in the tech sector that are probably bigger than certain national states. We have to deal with digital service providers who have a lot of power on the market, and probably not sure how much the competition is helping, if it's enough of competition there. And we have the big corporate economy labels, who of course have a lot of strength and muscle to bring their interests to the ground. How can indie labels be successful in such an environment, Joe?
Well, I think for this one, it perhaps makes the most sense to talk about, the value that Merlin specifically provide and a bit of history as to how and why the organization came to exist. Historically, when independents were wanting to work directly with digital retail partners, they found that it was difficult to achieve the same value with regard to licensing terms that the majors were able to negotiate, at least on an individual basis. And so from that issue and from that value gap came the need for Merlin to exist. So for anyone who is maybe unfamiliar with who we are, what we do, we are the global licensing partner for independents. Our membership consists of, and this is on an international scale, consists of labels, distributors, aggregators, hybrid music companies that collectively account for around 15% of the global digital market. And so for comparison, that's a similar market share to Warner Music. And it's through our representation and our kind of collective voice, representation of those rights and our collective voice, that we're able to approach DSPs, approach digital partners, and negotiate best-in-class licensing deals with each of those partners. So those are deals that independents would find it very difficult to achieve on their own, and thus we've helped to redress that value gap that was initially there. And those are also terms that are on par with what the majors are being offered in those same deals as well. We sort of take a two-pronged approach to that. Well, there's several ways we approach our deals. So I mean, there's the more sort of known, established streaming models like with Spotify and Apple, Deezer, etc. We're also, in terms of creating value for our members, we're we're looking at, well, we have and have established relationships and deals with the likes of, you know, Facebook/Meta, TikTok, deals in the social space, so new models as well as those kind of existing streaming models, and new markets as well, because we are a very international facing organization. We're wanting to make sure that we're exploring opportunities and achieving value for our members internationally in up and coming and developing markets as well. So we've been very successful at establishing deals with the likes of like Tencent and NetEase in China, Geo7 in India, Awa in Japan, more recently Flow in Korea. And we really are, you know, that is all driving incremental value for our members as well.
Since when is Merlin existing?
So we're actually celebrating 15 years of the organization this year. So yeah, we turned 15 this year. So 2008, Merlin was formed.
And it's has been founded by the independent labels and associations all over the world. I think that needs to be filled in.
Exactly, yeah. So every decision that Merlin takes is driven by our board, which is comprised of independents in the market. So, you know, we have representatives likes of Ninja Tune and K7, Beggars on our board. So every decision that they help inform will not only impact the wider sector, but also impact their own businesses as well. So they always very much have the best interests of the sector at heart, and the expertise there to drive those decisions as well.
Thanks. Helen, how can indie labels be successful today from Impala's point of view?
Well, being successful is really about maximising their brand and identity. So when we talk about being independent, artists want to work with an independent label because there is an additional value there. They have this identity and association that you can't get with other labels, or you can't maybe get with the brand that, say, Sony signs you for. You get a different level of brand. But that, I think, is really important. And within that, being able to having the freedom to concentrate on developing that and making sure an artist gets the best exposure is the most important thing to concentrate on. And if we can rely on collective muscle through Merlin, then it means that you have more freedom to concentrate on the artistic side and the commercial side, and make sure you have the best artists that suit your business. And then I think that obviously from a national and European international perspective, it's also about using the collective strength that exists through associations like, you know, the Austrian association VTMÖ, if I pronounce it properly, and all the sister organisations in all the different countries. And we can see in some markets you have associations that have existed for 40, 50 years. In other territories it's more recent, but you know, there's definitely a distinct movement that means that you're operating on your own, but also together with the whole sector, and that means that your strength is multiplied 100 times.
Okay. It's like, sounds like we call it when we do some ads on the Austrian market, we say we're together, we are strong. Only together we are loud. We can be heard only together.
Yes, exactly.
No doubt that indie label associations, of course, point out that we only can be successful when we stand together. How does that feel from a small label's point of view, Nadia?
I really like the community sense and being friends with other labels, so I'm not really a fan of the like elbow vibe to it, and it's beautiful to see pop up more labels in Austria and Vienna, because I think that there's always every artist or band has other preferences of how to work together, and yeah, they only can be met when there are many players. And yeah, I think places like Waves Festival are beautiful to catch up and to meet with people and to talk about stuff that bothers us or that are struggles within our work. And yes, I also share the opinion that together we're louder, and to the idea to maybe form allies with, or to network with labels from other countries, and to like also have the strategy to go international with artists in the first place when putting up the strategy. And we try to put it in contracts already when we see potential for international career. But yeah, it's a lot of work to like build those networks and to get to know these people. And showcase festivals are perfect for that, but you still have to do all the work, the label work as well. So I have a release on Friday. I probably should like write emails to media and stuff, but
Rather
it's
than
also
sitting here.
No, not rather, but
It's over in 40 minutes.
it's but I already did that actually, and I have lovely colleagues who support me. Yeah, but it's a lot if you just do it all by yourself.
Nadia, what about infrastructure like music export offices? Does that help a lot?
Oh yes, yes.
What about public sector funding? How important is that? Is it possible for small labels to be successful on their own strength, or is public funding essential?
For Ink Music, it's essential.
Okay.
Ink Music exists for 20 years, so it's more than 20 years actually. So it's already on a good base and has a big roster and catalog, but fundings are still very important, actually for the artists, because there are fundings for production, and if they don't get it, they can't even make a record. So we always like are rooting for them and like are afraid when they don't like get the funding. We with a few bands we're waiting for the Musikfonds, the jury decisions, and hoping that they will get the money. It's very important because otherwise they can make a living, they have to pay it on their own, and it's hard for musicians to do that.
It's, from my point of view as an independent association, label association, it's always a matter of trying to make sure that people who work in that sector actually can live from the work they do. That is professionalism as opposed to being a beggar. But we have the first statement from the audience. Please. I will repeat it anyway, so I just make sure I hear it. I will repeat it.
Okay. I just wondered how do you get things started as an independent label? Because I recently became part of the label 2 years ago, and we started all this artist collective, and so we all have this artist perspective, but none of us has this truly music business insight. So I wonder what is the structure behind independent labels? Where do you get your information from? Do you have maybe some, I don't know, tips where to go for this specific kind of education?
The question from the audience: how do you start an independent label? What does it need in the background when you start as a new beginner? Who feels comfortable in answering?
I can say how it works for Ink Music. I try to. I wasn't there from the start. As I said, it was founded like over 20 years ago. So luckily there's the founder Hannes Schürz, who has a lot of knowledge that he like loves to share. Also there are some courses about music business. There are some opportunities to go there. Many of them, you have to pay for many of them. So that's maybe not possible for everyone. But yeah, a lot of that stuff is also learning by doing and talking to people. I think many of the people are open to share their knowledge. So, yeah, try to get in touch with people. And I think it's important to have a team that is willing to give a lot and to have like many resources. So you don't have to like engage many agencies or like it's for example I learned graphics design. That's very practical. So I can do some stuff on my own and don't have to pay for it every time. Yeah, but it's difficult. It's not easy. But I think you should try. Yes, yes.
Voluntary work, you said, yeah. Yeah, I can confirm that. As from my point of view, being able to watch quite some new labels starting up in Austria during the years, be prepared to invest a lot of energy and time and efforts, and sooner, not for everybody it will pay back. But if you do the right moves and you have the right ideas, you will be successful. Francesca.
Yes, Sandra.
I will repeat it anyway.
I wanted to add perspective from the National Association on this subject because personal experience, we suffered very badly during the pandemic years and we lost a lot of membership. So we decided to have a new membership drive, and actually with the help of Merlin, who actually funded this little experiment, we are sort of gathering young labels, but just sometimes just single artists who self-publish, and we are sort of structuring this in a different way. Instead of us kind of telling them what's going on and how to do it, we just will let them ask us, you know, and learn as well, because there's a complete different world, complete different perspective. That's what is sort of an established independent label and someone working from the start now. So we will be learning from each other and also give young labels the opportunity not to have such a long learning curve and sort of go straight up the most basic things.
That was rather a statement than a question from Francesca Trainini, head of Italian Indie Label Association, PMI. Thanks for that, Francesca. And she mentioned as the Italian association, they are putting a focus on providing learning and information possibilities for young and upcoming label managers, which I can confirm. As Austrian association, we do it very similar. It's very important to give help, to help those young people, or at least the young labels. Sometimes it's not so young people starting a young label. And sometimes it's workshops, sometimes it's Zoom sessions, but also very important is one-to-one information, question and answer on a personal basis. I am always there on the phone, by email, in the chat, wherever, for all our membership, for any questions that may come up. And if I don't know the answer, I will make sure I get the answer. So become member of your national trade association. That helps a lot when setting up a new label. Yes?
Hi. So my question is, we're a new association. We're the ones representing Bulgaria. We just joined Impala, so it's kind of a new thing for us. But we have specific problems in our region. We're from Bulgaria, so the whole region is a little bit of a, let's say, a mess. But the independent labels in our country, we've established a few very massive problems. So only be paying entities within the neighboring right system. So many independent labels who have a lot of streams digitally, trending songs on YouTube, are not included in any form of chart, which of course is a big disadvantage for the majority of our members, right? So we have not yet established a way to kind of push through the creation of a new chart system. And I wanted to ask, does anyone have any knowledge on that? And you know, also we're very open to have your help. I'm Ruth, this is Marco, and this is our product manager Neil back. So if anyone
Okay.
wants to help us,
Question from the audience we have here is now from a young lady from Bulgaria who has founded a new indie label association there recently, only recently if I understand it.
yeah, that's me.
Right? Yeah, that's you. With the question, or the statement, it's rather difficult, and I'm sure it's a lot more difficult in the younger markets, such in Central Eastern Europe. I'm pretty sure that is more difficulty on top. So how to set up things, simple things that like a chart system that might be like standard to anybody in old Europe, but might be difficult in new and emerging markets. I understand that. Helen, maybe you have an answer to that.
I mean, I think the way the charts are organised in each country varies enormously. It's really important that they're representative. I do remember in Italy a few problems in the past that are also probably continuing in some form or another. So it's really important. It's an essential tool of the trade, and it has to be transparent and open and inclusive. So that's like a fundamental principle, and that's a point that needs to be made to whoever's operating the charts, because you can't discriminate in those areas. And then of course it has to be a chart that includes all forms of consumption, and there are different approaches in different countries as to, you know, what is a stream worth. Is a free stream the same value as a paid stream, etc. But I think the most important is to make sure that the actual scope of the chart covers all of the independent sector as far as possible. So depending on the base from which the chart is built, there's going to be a huge exclusionary effect, and that's potentially anti-competitive if you feel that it's done deliberately. And you know, getting a bit of profile around that, it could be a really good commercial project for the Bulgarian Association, for example, to raise some profile on that. And sometimes you can get changes made quite quickly if you can manage it.
Yes, Case, a very quick one, because we have a few things that we want to mention here, whilst our time is there.
Look at the surrounding countries where there are charts, and see if companies who are already making charts in the area are interested to enter the Bulgarian market. And of course that needs a long discussion, but it's I think the way to see if people with knowledge and all the elements Helen is saying needed. I mean, they have the experience, so we have to look at people in the area who already market.
Yeah. That was Case from Dutch Indie Label Association, saying that it would be a good idea to look around in neighboring countries and countries where their charts already exist and work out well, and pick up best practice from there and experiences from there. Thanks, Case. Good point. I'd like to continue with quite important question, I think, and I will start this for you, Joe. What do you think? How can we get fair opportunities for small labels at digital platforms, at the streaming platforms, at the service providers? How do we get fairness and opportunities in that market?
Well, I mean, that's a large part of our work, and again, a large part of why Merlin exists. You know, there is what we try and what we do offer across our membership is absolute parity. So when, I mean, give the example of indirectly benefiting from Merlin in a moment, but when an independent is a direct member of Merlin, there is the one set of membership terms for every single member of Merlin, regardless of if they're a huge company like Beggars, regardless of if they're a very small label. So every single member abides by those same terms. Once they're onboarded as a Merlin member and let's say they're reviewing our Spotify deal, those deal terms again are the exact same deal terms regardless of who you are, regardless of your size, regardless of how you've scaled. So there is absolute parity in that sense, in that everyone who is licensing a DSP via Merlin benefits from the exact same deal terms that we've negotiated. So there's parity in that sense. Now, in terms of fairness, one thing, it doesn't just end at the commercial terms. I mean, as I've said, we are successful in achieving the best available commercial terms, but beyond that, it's the education of our membership as well. We completely understand, and this isn't limited to smaller or up-and-coming members or independents, but we understand the complexities of an ever-evolving market. We have around 40 deals in place at the moment in different territories, different models, as I mentioned before, like traditional streaming, social space, short form video, gaming, fitness, lifestyle. We have all these different kinds of deals in place, and to better promote fairness and make sure our membership is as best educated as possible is a big part of our work. So, I mean, one thing we do is try and help both via team resource, both via kind of technical resources that we've developed and made available. We try to educate our member on the supply chain and operational side of things. We try to help them understand the very large data sets that are provided to them. We help them try and understand the pitching and promo and marketing opportunities that are available to them as well. Increasingly, and because of the robustness of some of our partnerships in the digital space, we're running webinars with the likes of Spotify, YouTube, if let's say a new marketing or insights tool is made available, so that everyone right down to our smallest member can understand how to use that tool to squeeze more value out of their catalog on whatever platform that is. Now again, in terms of fairness, one thing we're very keen to do as well is, putting independence on an even footing is a big part of our ethos. And there's a sense, this sort of brings me to the two ways, well, we sort of divide it into two ways that you can benefit from Merlin. So I've talked quite a lot about being a direct member of Merlin, where the benefits are many, but we are also very transparent in that that will likely come at a point to which you've scaled. You need to be able to take some of those responsibilities and processes in-house, where you may have previously relied on the support of a distributor, for example. And so if as you say, if the lens is on small labels, that's where we try and help independents understand the ways in which they can indirectly benefit from Merlin as well. If you're a small one-person operation, you founded your label 2 weeks ago, we're not going to recommend that you come and be a direct member of Merlin, because that's not going to be the most sustainable option for you. What we'd recommend, for the sake of kind of fairness and making sure you're benefiting from all that support we've achieved in our deals, is to partner with a Merlin member distributor, where you can indirectly benefit from those advantageous terms and benefits that we've negotiated, but without necessarily having the scale or the experience or the resource to sustain yourself as a direct member of Merlin.
How can I, as a label, how can I find out if my distributor is a member of Merlin or not?
One thing I would say is talk to them first. Most independents are, most independent distributors are members of Merlin. Many of them are happy to disclose that. We're also happy to have that conversation as well. We're happy to, we have so many conversations about whether a company should come to us directly, maybe perhaps, if they're not at the point where they can compete for attention at a DSP level yet without the support of a distributor, we may recommend then that they go to a distributor who is within our membership ranks, and we can sort of signpost there as well.
I remember well times when, before Merlin existed, when you were independent rights owner and you wanted to do business with the big platforms. I mean, they had a deal form. You sign it or you take it or leave it. That's what they offer, and there is no negotiation. Since Merlin exists, we can be sure that those small entities have at least the same parameters in their contracts like the big three. And that's why, thank you, Joe, on behalf of Merlin. As an independent label association, I say it's so essential to have this infrastructure, to have Merlin in this world.
Yeah, I'd just add to that and say, yeah, exactly that. You know, every single member is afforded full visibility of our complete deal terms that we've agreed with that service. It's not a case of taking our word for it. You know, at a micro level, you will see exactly what we've negotiated in terms of revenue, in terms of protections to ensure, you know, those terms are on par with majors and conglomerates. In terms of additional benefits, you know, you have exact visibility of what we've negotiated at a licensing level before you commit to the deal. And then if a member doesn't want to commit to that deal, there's no obligation. So there's very much flexibility and transparency there with everything we do. I think one more thing I would add with regard to fairness and parity in the independent sector is, you know, looking at different territories and looking at different markets. Like ours is very much a global mission. You know, we don't consider our work done because of, you know, our established memberships in in more built up markets. We're very much endeavoring to build both our memberships and our partnerships in new territories and new markets. You know, an example, I listed off some of the digital deals that we've had in place in international markets when I spoke earlier, but in terms of membership as well, we're always looking to make sure we're representing independence at a local level. In the last year, and certainly in my sort of 3.5 years of Merlin, there've been a lot of firsts. You know, from memory, we've had our first members in like Lebanon, like Iraq, Burkina Faso, like all these, Tunisia as well. So all these territories where previously we didn't have a good representation of independence, we're now moving into, and that's a big part of what we're trying to achieve.
I think it's now at least 10 years that income from streaming business has become the most important sector of the income for rights owners. And Helen, from Impala's point of view, what this ecosystem of streaming economy, what does it need to become even fairer, to opportunities to become even better for small labels?
I think the obviously, as you say, the whole streaming ecosystem is vital. From Impala's perspective, it's a huge part of our work. And 2.5 years ago, we made a proposal to introduce some reform in how streaming revenue is distributed and allocated. You can find that we revisited and we revamped the plan a few months ago based on some evidence from the market since we introduced our first set of proposals. And you can find that on our website's 10 steps to reform streaming. For us, you know, there are a number of different ways of looking at it. So we think that, first of all, there should be more money coming in. So subscription fees should probably be higher. We feel that there's a need to capture the moment economy in a more efficient way. That's obviously a big priority for Merlin. So how do we get value from the few second clips that are used, TikTok being the most obvious example, and there are others, Facebook a bit more traditional, but the same. You know, there's this real moment economy. How do we capture the value in that? How do we deal with streaming manipulation? And then looking at allocation, well, how do we make sure the market really promotes diversity? We have seen, for example, lots of different proposals in the past couple of years. Our question is, to what extent do those proposals actually boost diversity? To what extent will we see effective and meaningful change? And that's really our big priority. And if you go to our streaming plan, then you can see the different proposals there. We talk about different types of models that we believe are really important. It's very simple to introduce and will make an instant and effective difference. and there are lots of different views about how that should be achieved, but you know, we think our plan is a real, is a vital starting point. The other thing I would just say is that, you know, the streaming market will continue to evolve. So what we see today is nothing like what we will see in a few years' time. And that's where we rely on Merlin's visibility and understanding of the future to be able to make sure the deals that they do now are future-proof. And we have seen, you know, in the last few months, the huge question around artificial intelligence. And of course, from our perspective, we see it not just as a challenge, but as an opportunity. So how do we as a sector make sure that we're in, or we're riding the wave on artificial intelligence, we're actually using the opportunities there to create commercial advantages for our artists. So it's really important that we as a sector remain leaders, and that includes a reform of the streaming market.
Yeah, as Austrian indie label association VTMÖ, I would like to fill in. We've been asking our membership a couple of years ago about what they expect from us, what they would prefer, what they would think is necessary, and since then we are.
Yeah. Sure.
Right?
Yeah. I hope I think there are different ways. You don't discriminate too much against short tracks, but you would have a way of making sure there is compensation in there for longer tracks. So that's again something that we want to hone in on and model. The other thing I thought that we should mention when we're talking about Merlin is the importance of associations. So when Merlin is looking at a particular country, it does a lot of work through associations. In return for that, members of associations actually get a discount in the commission that Merlin charge. So anybody in the room who is a label who can benefit from Merlin services, they must make sure that they are a member of the National Association, because then they have this discount in the commission. So they actually save money as well as making it.
Yeah, I'm not really adding much to the discourse, but I was going to echo the points that were being made over there. You know, that's something we're factoring into our conversations with independents a lot, that they need to join like a music trade association. As you said, Helen, you know, we support that by we encourage our membership to engage with TAs by discounting quite heavily discounting our admin fee. So we already take a very small admin fee from revenues generated in our deals, and that's halved for our members who are also registered with Music Trade Association. And like the other way, it may have been touched on by Alexander before, but we do also separately provide kind of sponsorship opportunities for trade associations as well, to be able to deliver their work, like deliver seminars, build their resources, etc. So yeah, I can't stress enough how supportive we are of the work that trade associations are doing.
Important, yeah.
Building a new chart in Bulgaria.
Let's round up this question with Nadia. Have you actually been feeling any consequences of you've not been in this job for 15 years? I'm aware of that, but is it can you experience it that Merlin does make a difference, that Impala and VTMÖ and other trade associations can contribute to more fairness on the field, or how does that feel from a small label's view?
At first, yes, of course, it's beautiful to see that there is someone who cares and who supports small businesses and labels. And it's a long road. I'm aware of that, so it's not that I know that it's not like by tomorrow to have these changes, but it gives hope. And that's very important for like artists and small businesses and labels.
Yes, we give hope.
Yeah.
Like to hear that. Nadia, we stay with you because when we said this panel has a topic, proud to be independent, then what is that? Why are we proud to be independent? What does it mean for artists? can artists be proud to be working with an independent label? What can artists expect when they work with an independent label? What can artists expect when working with Ink Music?
At first, I thought about that phrase of being proud, and for me, I experienced that I'm proud about the content, about what happens and what our artists are like putting out in the world. I think it's very beautiful to see like the very important topics of our time spoken about by our artists, and that's what I'm proud about. And to have the artistic perspective and not just how do we get a lot of streams. And I think that artists who are in for the music and not for the fame and the money, what is actually pretty hard to like get very fast. It's possible, but yeah, I think artists who like want their music to be heard and seen can expect a good partner with us to share the vision and to support them with that. And it's a very personal approach we are trying to fulfill. We are always there for the artists. We have meetings with them. We care about them. And it's not that we just want to do one album campaign, and if it doesn't work out in the first place, then we drop the artist. We want to do we want to build careers that are sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Helen, what does Impala contribute to help the fact that artists may feel proud to work with independent labels instead of the big ones? What is Impala contributing? I know that we are contributing something because we're discussing it all the time, but I ask you to mention a few of the programs that we have been developing during the last few years to make indie labels even prouder, and artists can be proud to work with indie labels.
Yeah, sure. I think from the Impala board perspective, what they feel is that the artists that they work with and the labels and music businesses, they are real leaders. So leaders locally, and you mentioned about the subjects that artists can talk about, and that's really important. That makes you proud. And from our members' perspective, they want to create an ecosystem where that's normal. That's a normal part of the business, and then collectively what we can do is try to elevate that. So through streaming reform, by looking at questions collectively that are more difficult maybe to consider individually. So on the question of sustainability, we've built a carbon calculator that's free to all members. We have got guidance on how you can make a change to your emissions by making some quite simple changes to how you're running your business. That's all available. We've also been doing some work on the equity, diversity and inclusion side. We have prioritised those two areas of work because